And welcome into JUCK ON BUCKS. Thank you so much for joining me here on Friday, August 30th, and we are live. You're in here with me. We can talk. I had planned on going live all week today at 9 a.m., and I got a call last night from Chris, and he said, look, we're going to have to go a little earlier. We're going to go at 9, your usual slot, noob, so go ahead and find somewhere else to go. So I'm here at 12. I'm not here at noon, or I'm sorry, I'm not here at 9, my usual time. 12 o'clock today, but we're going live. I want to interact today, talk to the chat. I'm pumped. I'm sure you're pumped too. It's here, man. The longest off season that I can remember, and probably due to talking about football every day, which I mean, sure, I guess I've always talked about football every day, but not quite like this. But it's finally over. The season of dreams begins. I mean, we got a crappy opponent, but you got to savor them all. Jack Sawyer said we got a quality opponent tomorrow. That's not true, but you got to savor them all. The season's so short. I'm really excited to see a lot of the younger guys tomorrow. The guys really want to pitch a shutout. I would love for that to happen, but they're just so hard. They seem to get spoiled by a field goal at the last minute every time. The odds are actually pretty good. I think they're about plus 200 that they pitch a shutout. So not even a really good payday if you bet for a shutout. But we got a lot to hit on today. For the chat, one starter and one young guy that you're most looking forward to having a big game tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. Jamie French, this news just popped in. Jamie French has made his commitment to Texas. You guys remember Jamie French, the wide receiver who it looked like for a long time we were going to get. And he is out. He is going to Texas. We've known for a long time he wasn't coming to Ohio State, though oddly, he's had a crystal ball still up there for Ohio State this entire time, which is just really bizarre. Tom Loy of 247 did not want to let that thing go. Now, tomorrow, the Buckeyes are going to hear Phillip Bell's final decision, and it's thought very strongly that he's going to be a Buckeye. And that's a fantastic deal because that now makes 4 wide receivers. He joins Quincy Porter, Des Jones, Bodpin Miller, and you never know. You could have one more. You got Jerome Miles out there. They definitely want Jerome Miles if they can get him. We'll see. He's pretty big into Utah right now. I don't think he ultimately ends up there. He's at Texas A&M this weekend for the Notre Dame game. You know Texas A&M pays big, and I know that the Buckeyes are not going to swing big when it comes to the checkbook, when it comes to Jerome Miles, having 4 guys in the class. That's just not going to happen. But tomorrow's the first game of the season, a season that we hope ends in a championship, but it's not really the start of the championship run. That's been underway. I have had a ton of fun since I started this podcast, and one of the coolest things that I get to do is go on other people's shows. And earlier this week, I was on the Morning Roast with Ron James and Q, and you guys should check them out, man. Ron James, actually, he'll be on with me tomorrow on the Postgame show. And I'm going to be doing the post-game show after every single game. We're going to start late in the fourth quarter. Dylan Davis from the Delaware Gazette is going to join me after he attends the press conference. My buddy Dan Sanchez, Devin Sanchez's dad, he'll be on with me tomorrow. He was a cornerback at UTEP. The dude knows football, and he wants to come on and talk some football with us. You guys will be able to ask him some questions. He doesn't know that yet. I haven't told him that, but yeah, we're going to put him on the spot. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come check out the post-game show. Anyway, how I got started was basically when this championship journey began, which to me is right at the end of the Cotton Bowl. That loss to Missouri, man. That loss seemed to burn a fire in a lot of people. It was the crescendo of a crappy season. It had a lofty record, right? I understand we sound spoiled and ridiculous when we say an 11-1 regular season was a disappointment. But it was less about the record and more about how that team played, how that coaching staff coached, the decisions that were made. It was all just so frustrating. And I just feel like at that point, we had so many people around the program, coaches, people with deep pockets, a whole lot of people so frustrated. I felt the same way. That's when I started this podcast. And part of the reason I love college football are the storylines of college football. It's just different. I'm sappy. I love it. And if this team ultimately completes the goal, that's kind of where this story began. But the offseason is over now. We've never seen an offseason like it in college football. And I see them. They say, hey, hang the banner, the offseason champs. I get it, but a team is built in the offseason. Practice habits are built in the offseason. Changes are made in the offseason. Player acquisition, coaching dismissals. Everything is built off the offseason, and we've never seen anything like this in college football. And on the eve of the season, I want to run through that timeline of events. I put the timeline together, and there were so many things that I kept going, geez, forgot about that. It was like catching lightning in a bottle. And when you create opportunities like they did all off season for yourself to get the perfect mix of everything together, you can't squander it. And that, more than anything, is why there's so much pressure this season. All the way everything came together, it's just so perfect. You got the perfect mix of players, the perfect mix of coaches. December 4th, when McCord hit the portal and we woke up, I wasn't a fan of the guy, to say the least. I mean, many of us were talking about hitting the transfer portal before he decided. But with him out of the way, heading into that Cotton Bowl, Devin Brown starting, a lot of us thought that he should have been the guy to begin with. He never really got a chance. They said they were going to split reps early on in that season. That didn't happen. I was really excited to see him in that game. I mean, leading up to that game, it was like, is this our future? Can this guy be the guy? Well, he started, but he didn't finish. And he looked unpoised and frantic when he was in there. Nothing about it but his attitude inspired any kind of confidence at all. We know how the rest of that game went. And I never got to do that episode about the Cotton Bowl because by the time I had ordered my microphone and the things I needed to get the show started, we were well into some other news. As January 3rd, Tyleik Williams announced that he would be coming back for his senior season, joining senior linebacker, future captain, and Block O recipient Cody Simon in returning to the team. Cody announced December 12th so casually in a little media session that they kind of had to ask him twice, which is certainly on brand for Cody, the linebacker who played 376 snaps last year, just about half that of Steele and Tommy. Really big news for a linebacker room that's going to be really young. Tyleik returning, obviously huge news. He was set to be a first or second round pick. And with the possibility at that point of losing both star defensive linemen or defensive ends, Steele and Tommy, having Tyleik back to stabilize the D line, Cody back to add some experience to the linebacker group, really big deal. Earlier that day on January 3rd, after Alabama's loss in the playoffs, the GOAT of the game, and I don't mean GOAT in a good sense, I mean the whipping boy, the center of the team, not often a center of a team, is the pariah after a big loss, but Seth McLaughlin surely was for a series of poor snaps in that game. He got totally blasted by the media, blasted by the Alabama fan base, and he doesn't say that's why he left, but he entered the transfer portal after starting for 2 years for them. The next day on January 4th, Will Howard, the quarterback of the Big 12 champion Kansas State Wildcats, who had previously entered the portal, his team had a hometown boy named Avery Johnson, the highest quarterback recruit that they've ever had, with beautiful hair and a ton of babes, a lot of fanfare, and a coaching staff who were really excited to get him on the field. Will wasn't going to win that job. In the day after Seth McLaughlin entered the portal, Will Howard exited it on January 4th and declared that he was committing to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Will Howard said that he was either going to go to the NFL or come to Ohio State. And at that point, the belief held by most was that he was coming to be the starting quarterback. Most largely had turned the page on the thought that Devin Brown could ever handle this job. And even if he could, he couldn't stay healthy enough to do it. The following day, January 5th, Ryan Day's first ever commitment, the kid from Pick North who grew up wanting to be a Buckeye, played his way into a 5-star, top 10 player in the country, announced that he would be coming back to Ohio State his senior season. Jack Sawyer had played his best football of his career the second half of last season, best game of his career in that Cotton Bowl. And that same day, Lathan Ransom, who was having a really great season before he got injured, announced that he would be coming back for his senior year. The following day, January 6th, Seth McLaughlin announced that he was coming to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes. The sentiment was, okay, look, if the guy can't snap, he can play guard, right? He was all SEC 2 years ago, but it certainly did get a whole lot of chuckles from the enemy, right? Especially after the game that he just played against them in the playoffs. Rightfully so. We would have clowned them as well. But the offensive line definitely needed some help. And all we needed at that point was one more transfer to replace right tackle Josh Fryer. Replacing a guy like Fryer ought to be easy, right? I mean, this was kind of our first foray into the transfer portal, using it like that. And everything we had seen, it looked easy to go get whoever you wanted. But, buddy, I combed over that thing every day. And I'm sure Pantone did too. And the truth is, and this is why we're in such a conundrum now, if we don't bring in good linemen from recruiting, finding tackles in the portal is the absolute hardest thing to do. There were 40 four-star offensive linemen in 2023. Last cycle, just 12. Teams realized when the demand and the price was just crazy for all these offensive linemen in 23 that it's much cheaper and easier to keep your guys home. So they did, and they paid him in 24. And a potential replacement for Josh Fryer was absolutely never found. Nobody was even close. A couple guys entered. They had the no contact tag. So they headed to camp. Josh Fryer goes ahead and wins a couple of Iron Buckeyes. And now we all feel a whole lot better about him. But January 8th, the national championship game was played. And as the confetti dropped, so did a tweet from the best running back in college football, Quinshon Judkins, saying that he was coming to the Ohio State Buckeyes. And that tweet reverberated through college football so loudly, not only did it make the Buckeye fans happy for a moment, adding him to Quinshon, Jack, Tyleek, Will Howard, Lathan Ransom, Seth McLaughlin, it kind of ripped the headlines from the national championship game. It was old news really quick. And it just kept on rolling as all eyes were focused on Ohio State. Quinshon stole the news cycle from him. No shine. You get none. January 10th, former five-star guard from Texas, Donovan Jackson, announced that he was foregoing the NFL to come back and join the team. And it was very clear around the country that Ohio State was buying a national championship, paying everybody first-round money to forego the NFL draft. A couple of whales were still out there in JT, Denzel, Emeka, Trey, but it didn't last long. Later on that day, January 10th, Denzel Burke announced he was coming back. Not satisfied with his draft position, he wants to be a top 10 pick, achieve his goals. Also on the coaching front, January 10th, Parker Fleming, the special teams coach, a total disaster of a football coach that we were told repeatedly the entire time he was here, what a nice guy he was, what a good football mind he had, by the sources that are very entrenched with the team and this current staff. They defend everything, even when it's indefensible, like when Parker Fleming received an extension from his friend, the head coach. Guy was clearly a disaster. He was here a year too long, but January 10th, he was out. January 11th, Emeka Egbuka announced he would be foregoing the NFL draft, a draft he probably would have been a first or high second-round pick. He wanted to come back and be a Buckeye again, have a healthy season, and lead the receiving corps. And this one was huge. Without him, our top three receivers heading into 24 are Carnell Tate with something like 27 catches, Brandon Innis with 1, and JJ. The fact that some Buckeye fans really wanted Emeka to go is amazing to me, but luckily we don't have to deal with that. January 12th, 3 more huge bombs were dropped. College football in general. Nick Saban, the greatest coach of most of our lives, maybe the greatest coach ever, a guy who I kind of went from despising most of his career to really enjoying later on, probably has more to do with me getting older, respecting his old school way of doing things, could still work in a world in college football where everything just drastically changed. But it finally pushed him over the edge when guys were coming in after the season. And instead of asking, how do I get better, asking for more money, Miss Terry, she was having none of it. And Nick moved on. The second piece of huge news that day, January 12th, as it relates to us, Travion Henderson announced he was coming back for his senior year at Ohio State. And this, to me, of those seniors, this was the most surprising. My point of view was a guy like him who's been injured a couple times, missed chunks of seasons. If he comes back his senior year and he gets injured and misses a good chunk of this season, he's going to be hit with that can't stay healthy tag by the NFL. I also don't see much room for him to improve his draft stock because you've seen everything he can do on tape. The only thing at this point he's doing is putting more tread on the tires in his prime. But with Trey back, the addition of Quinshon, who we now know, Trey already knew that he was coming back. Quinshon, like they knew way before it was announced, but that's the best backfield in the country. Absolutely, bar none. And the third piece of news that day, January 12th, defensive end JT Tuimoloau announced he was returning, and this one didn't feel like it was going to happen. Rumors were swirling that Camp JT was difficult to deal with. They wanted more money. The folks who pay the money weren't willing to pay all that money. It didn't look good. But he ended up coming back, and getting him back meant you only lost Michael Hall Jr. off of a defensive line that was excellent in 2023. In a draft that they all passed up when none of them would have fallen outside the second round. They all came back to Ohio State. All these guys, the members of the class of 2021, a recruiting class that was shockingly good. 7 5-stars. The second-ranked class in the country. Emeka said the other day, they've not won a single big game together, and it's sad, but it's true. And there's a whole lot of really great players that came out of there. It's not like this was a bust of a class. We've had busts of classes, great players, but they've never won a big game. Since Saban had retired, we saw a slew of Alabama guys entering the portal. We obviously got Seth McLaughlin, but a whole lot of Buckeye fans were throwing out the wishful thinking that maybe Caleb Downs would enter the transfer portal. It was buzzing around for days. Freshman superstar safety who had led the team in tackles. I dismissed it as a pipe dream, didn't think it was going to happen. But on January 17th, huge news around all of college football when Caleb Downs entered it and became the absolute prize of the portal. Just completing a historic freshman year at Alabama, Ryan Day grabbed a couple of fellas, got on a plane, and headed on down. He knew that they were second in that recruitment the first time around. No news on January 18th, but January 19th, we were absolutely slammed with 4 huge developments for this season. The first of which, Caleb decided he was going to be a Buckeye. Total prize of the class, and he's done nothing but show exactly why since he's been in Columbus. The second piece of big news on that day, Bill O'Brien was hired as the offensive coordinator. Former Penn State head coach, Texans head coach, Patriots offensive coordinator, Alabama offensive coordinator, known as a bit of a jackass. In a bit of a chain reaction after that, Corey Dennis was let go on the same day. Corey Dennis, Nikki Meyer's husband, Urban Meyer's oldest daughter, the brunette, Nikki. Coaching is full of Nepo hires. Corey Dennis is definitely one, though he seems to be a really nice guy. Everybody knows he wasn't the quarterback coach. And the fourth piece of huge news on January 19th, the number 1 quarterback in the class who had just signed with Alabama, joined them out to the Rose Bowl, Julian Sayin, announced that he was entering the portal. Julian wasn't really a guy on Buckeye radars. Most of us who follow recruiting as a potential Buckeye during the recruiting class, Dylan Raiola, the number 1 quarterback in that class, former number 1, was committed to the Buckeyes. He decommitted, and shortly after that, Ryan Day secured the commitment of Aaron Noland, a high 4-star quarterback out of Langston Hughes in Georgia, playing in good competition, record-setting quarterback, and he was an absolute flawless commit for a long time. He did everything right. His commitment was exactly what you want out of a quarterback. Took no other visits, didn't flirt with anybody. Ohio State all the way, helped recruit the class perfect. But Bill O'Brien had a relationship with Julian Sayin, and the Brain Trust at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center held 2 days of meetings deciding what they were going to do with the situation. There's no doubt that Ryan Day, if he had his choice between the two during the recruiting cycle, would have picked Julian Sayin. But when you recruit a high-profile quarterback like Aaron Noland, he's the quarterback of the class. You don't take another one. That's understood. And Day said he told him that. Obviously torn about the decision. He didn't want to go back on his word. But after those 2 days of meetings, he decided that they would bring Julian Sayin in, and Sayin joined the team. I believe the first 5 years of his tenure at Ohio State, he does not make that decision. He sticks with his guy and says we're good, but not this time. There aren't many Julian Sayins. They chose to bring him in. And in early February, Bill O'Brien, it was a leak that he was potentially interested in the Boston College head coaching job. I thought it was a joke. But he was not only interested, he was going to go through the full interview process, multiple rounds of interviews, essentially holding Ohio State hostage while they're trying to move with their offensive coordinator. He's over here doing a full round of job interviews somewhere else, but they can't move on from him. It was total Bush League. I was really salty with it. Obviously, it worked out great. Bob got the job, On February 9th, he was officially hired at Boston College. And the same day, Ohio State dropped another bomb on college football when Chip Kelly, the head coach of the UCLA Bruins, who are entering the Big Ten, announced he was leaving as the head coach of UCLA to become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. One of the wildest moves we've ever seen in coaching. A head coach voluntarily moving to be the offensive coordinator in conference. But like Chip said, he does a lot of things most people don't do. Ryan Day giving up play calling was obviously an incredibly difficult decision for him to make, but he made it, and he made it before he knew that it would be going to a guy he just said recently he trusts with his life, his mentor, the guy that coached him in college. But those moves of him signing Julian Sayin, giving up play calling, being aggressive in the portal, letting Corey Dennis go, letting Parker Fleming go, gave me a sense that Ryan Day is making some changes. He's not happy. He's not going to keep chopping wood like we see so many coaches do. He's making changes. He's willing to change, even when it's uncomfortable. He's chasing that 1%, as he likes to say. And to be clear, that's all this guy needed for a national championship. 1%. That loss to Georgia, we all know, was a national championship game. And his willingness to change after being that close, I think it's to be commended. On February 15th, word came out that Tim Walton was being promoted to an assistant head coach, got a 2-year extension, as did Larry Johnson, Jim Knowles, 1-year extension for Keenan Bailey. And on that same day, February 15th, Ryan Day hired James Laurinaitis as the full-time linebacker coach, much to the delight of every Buckeye fan. We had talked about this for weeks ahead of time, and there was a couple different scenarios. We didn't know what way he'd go. Would he hire another special teams coach? Hell no. Would he try to keep James on as a GA for another year and hire a second defensive line coach to work side by side with Larry Johnson and eventually take over? Remember that storyline? No interruption in recruiting because the new guy would know the new recruits. Did James really want this? He's got little kids. James sure as hell wanted it. And we got the best country now. We'll see it in a couple of years. February 22nd, Ryan Day brought in pass rush specialist Brandon Jordan. Guy who'd worked in the NFL, worked for a lot of different guys personally, created a ton of buzz. He was around till about May 15th, and then he was out. On February 26th, they brought in Sam Petito to be Mark Pantoni's number one. Petito was essentially Nick Saban's Mark Pantoni. Then a week into spring practice, another bombshell dropped on March 13th when running back coach Tony Alfraud decided he was going to leave the Ohio State Buckeyes to go coach in Ann Arbor. More than half of the Ohio State roster is from out of state. Tony just spent the last decade trying to instill in his players that this rivalry still means something. It's not something we just talk about for ratings. It's not something just to get recruits in because it's cool and it gets a lot of national attention. The things on the wall, they're not decorations. This is how we live here. This is what matters to us. These are our values. To many, they are. Tony, born in Akron, Ohio, he never meant it. March 15th, Sonny Styles officially became linebacker Sonny Styles. The running back coach search went on for just over 2 weeks, which felt like way longer to me. Looking at the timeline, though, that's all it was. 2 weeks. And the Buckeyes and Ryan Day sent a shot across the bow at Oregon and hired Carlos Locklyn away from the shiny new wannabe rival entering the conference, the ones who are trying to gain a footprint in recruiting in the Midwest by planting a flag in Ohio, the ones who've manufactured themselves a cute little nickname. They talk about the team out west. No, dweeb. You talk about the team out west. Nobody's calling you that. Coach Locke proved his merit pretty quickly, successfully keeping Bo Jackson in state. Then he went out and got the best running back that nobody apparently but him and Mark Stoops knew about in Isaiah West, who I predict will be the more productive of the two at Ohio State. Also, I think he won the recruitment of Jordan Davison. He won that recruitment. The Buckeyes took a pass when Davison came in with an aggressive agent, 25 pounds overweight. By the way, we're going to talk about real journalists. Max Torres, my buddy at On3, he covers Oregon recruiting. I want to read you a quote that he wrote. This is from his article about Jordan Davison last week. Now, mind you, this guy lives in Long Beach and has covered Davison his whole career. Quote, "It's been discussed on the boards quite a bit But Davison definitely looks a bit heavier now than I first saw as a sophomore. He's always been a bigger back. I don't think he looked as fast, explosive, or strong as I've grown accustomed to. It felt like he was going down on first contact more than I would have expected. That's just straight up honest. That's difficult to write. You write something like that when you cover a team, it irritates the coaches, the players, the coaches of the high school at modern day. Like that's not good. It even pisses the fans off. So kudos to Max, man. That's a real dude. Not something you often see. But Carlos Locklyn won that recruitment. Max Torres is a real dude. April 22nd, after a very odd and short Ohio State career, Dallin Hayden enters the transfer portal just 2 days after they ran him out to do what they call a little lightning round after practice, where they sit at the table and do the interview. And it was the saddest thing I've ever seen. And it was pretty clear that that guy needed a change of scenery. And despite his destination, I'll be rooting for his success. But we left spring camp with just a couple of position group questions. Will Howard had not performed great. Devin Brown, definitely more accurate during camp than him. He appeared to be having a little bit more of a difficult time adjusting. So quarterback was still kind of up in the air. Who was going to start next to Cody at linebacker? It appeared Seth McLaughlin had locked down the center role. Who was going to start at right guard? Fall camp starts, and we came out of it with all the answers. Will Howard, going to be the starting quarterback. Cody and Sonny Styles will start at linebacker. Seth McLaughlin at center. Tegris Shabole at right guard. Will Howard had a great camp, changed his body, opened his eyes totally to a different way of playing the position, talking with confidence. He talks like a coach. But that's the timeline, man. That brings us to today. Today, the last day of the offseason, the craziest offseason we've ever seen. There can't have been one crazier. Transfer portal's only been around 3 years, and you can't have had a crazier one before that. And the way everything came together, it can't all be for nothing, because you're only going to catch lightning in a bottle once. The way everything lined up here, you're heading into this season with the absolute perfect pieces everywhere on the coaching staff, on the roster. Everything's perfect. So lucky, too. Bill O'Brien taking that Boston College job. The odds of that happening at the same time that Chip Kelly wants out of coaching and leaves UCLA, coinciding with Nick Saban retiring. We'll never see anything like this again. Pretty amazing, guys. First home game of the year usually catches some good visitors, and we got a couple tomorrow. Tavian St. Clair, he's coming in. Carter Lowe, Jake Cook, hometown boy. Riley Pettijohn will be up from Texas. Eli Lee, after he's taking on who do they got tonight? Hoban's got Don Bosco, New Jersey state champ for probably 13 different times. So that's going to be a banger up here in Akron. Chris Henry Jr. will be in town. Whole lot of smoke about Chris Henry Jr. in Oregon recently. We always knew that was going to happen when he moved out to the West Coast, that USC and Oregon were going to come really, really hard. And they'll continue to. But, ultimately, we know the relationship he's got with Heartline. Who knows? I imagine that all the money needed will be spent to retain Chris Henry, because they're going to be coming hard for sure. His teammate, Caden Dixon Wyatt, will also be in attendance. He's got an offer from Brian Hartline as well, as does wide receiver Jaden Ricketts from Ohio, and he's going to be there. A wide receiver named Donovan Murph, class of 2026. Defensive lineman Jamarcus Weiss. Linebacker Nathan Gersh. Eli Lee's teammate Rock Hill up here at Hoban. He'll be down tomorrow. Safety Nasir McCoy. Running back Elijah Kimball. And 2026 quarterback Donald Tabron. So, having Chris Henry in the house for JJ's first game, and I think they're going to absolutely try to show out with JJ tomorrow. I definitely think they're going to try to feed him some. We saw Ryan Day, and it seemed in the spring game like he really wanted to feed him the rock. He wanted him to show off. And I think we're going to see that tomorrow. I think we're going to make sure that they get some targets to JJ. I had a conversation the other day about targets to JJ. And I said before, I don't care if it's a Randy Rules situation. I want to see that dude get his targets. I don't know specifically what that number is. I got to see how much the offense is passing the ball. I think we're going to be much more run heavy. I don't know, maybe 60-40 split. I would like it to be a 60-40 split. So we'll see. And how many plays we're running, that'll dictate that too. But my buddy said 3. I would not be happy if it was 3 targets a game. I think any game that JJ Smith leaves with a stat line like 2 catches for 15 or 20 yards is just, it's bad, man. You got to get that guy his targets. But if you think of him as just the next 5-star receiver out of Ohio State who's going to be a first rounder, if you think of him like this guy can be an Olave, a Garrett Wilson, a Jackson Smith-Njigba, maybe a Marvin Harrison, if you think of him in that light, then it's okay to think of him having a pedestrian freshman year, because they all did too. But I don't think of him that way. I think of him as a once-in-a-decade type of player. The most recent freshman that had bigger years, Garrett had 30 receptions, 430 yards. Last year, Carnell Tate had something like 27 receptions, right around there. The rest of them had quite a bit fewer. But JJ obviously going to get a lot more run than that because he is starting from day one. They didn't. Garrett got a whole lot of playing time the second half of the season. But that's what I want to know. What do you guys think? Targets for JJ. What is an acceptable number of targets for JJ averaged out on the year? Because there's a scenario, man. If you really get this guy involved this year and run the entire passing game through him, everything, number one, gets easier everywhere else because he's just that special. But this guy could be borderline unstoppable year 2 and year 3. And picture the amount of muscle mass he's going to add in that time. When you look at him from his senior year of high school to now, it's already just incredibly impressive and apparent how much he's put on. Also saw yesterday at the press conference a couple days ago that they're still asking questions. I don't know if they're trying to stir something up, but to Travion and Day about which running back is going to get the first carry. Is this something anybody's interested in? This doesn't interest me in the least. I almost feel like they're trying to like pit these guys against each other or cause some kind of animosity. Who cares who gets the first carry? Like, they know what the deal is. They signed up for this. They're going to split carries. I don't think anybody gives a damn who gets the first one, who's called the starter. I don't know. Do any of you guys care? There's nothing there. I don't know what they're digging for. But we've seen Quinshawn. We've seen Trey. We know what they got. James Peoples is the guy I'm most excited to see tomorrow in the backfield just because of all the buzz we've been hearing about him. I want to see this guy out there, man. I believe that he's as talented as everybody's saying, but I got to see it, man. Got to see Peoples. Also really curious to see Edric. We've not heard a lot about Edric Houston lately. When they asked Larry Johnson last week about kind of that second wave of defensive ends, who would come after that second wave of Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Larry brought up Joshua Mickens, which was shocking, but he said that he's gained 30 pounds and came out of nowhere to have a great camp. Now, I don't know if that's just patting a guy on the back for a good job or if we're actually going to see something out of Joshua Mickens, who has looked like a linebacker the entire time he's been here, just does not fit in with the rest of the defensive linemen. Edric Houston certainly does. Edric already has the build. He's already big enough. Super chat from my buddy Chocolate Chip Scoochie. People need to stop seeing JJ as a freshman. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's just, this is a totally different ballgame with this guy. He showed it the entire time he's been here and absolutely blown everybody away, including, you know, the strength staff, his teammates, the captains on the team. Like, we've heard it from everybody. It's just different. You should treat it differently. He's really not a freshman. LeCharles Bentley had an interview on Buckeye Scoop the other night that's got a lot of people buzzing, man. Did you guys see that? That also kicked up another question that I've heard a lot of people asking recently. Why didn't Ohio State offer Andrew Babalola? Andrew Babalola, the number 12 player in the country on 247 from Kansas, not from the South, 6'6", 290 offensive tackle, a kid that's strongly considering Michigan, 38 offers, including every blue blood and Georgia and Tennessee, Miami, everybody. 38 offers, man. Not the bad ones. Well, we got an answer. We got an answer from a recruiting expert, and I want to share it with you guys. So this is a recruiting expert that covers Ohio State. Quote, I think it just comes down to they have not been sold enough on him to extend an offer. They do look at several games of a lot of the guys' senior seasons and then at times make an offer. So we'll see what happens with him as far as that goes. There we go. The number 12 player in the country, they're not sold on him. That LeCharles Bentley interview was pretty slick, though. He made a lot of good points. One of them, I've been saying for a while, that these Ohio kids are much more prone to leaving now because the world is smaller to them. They've grown up in a different world, man. And you can't treat these guys like you used to. Social media has made them familiar with every other program they have been watching ever since they've been involved in football on social media. Every recruit pop up their top 4 list, their official visits. They're going everywhere. That's what they think they should do. Trey McNutt was a perfect example of this. Like when they were asked, he said, like, people from Ohio, they think for some reason I shouldn't go through this process like everybody else does. And that's the way they think about it. So LeCharles' point was, you need to come into the recruitment with humility, like you're the underdog, even though you are the in-state guy. He also said a couple things that some people didn't like he doesn't want to see guys wearing gold chains. He wants dogs. He wants them hungry. He doesn't want them spoiled. I mean, look, that's something that every coach wants. They just don't say it. LeCharles put it out there, but a lot of people get irritated by that. Yes, you would prefer that everybody's hungry and not flashy coming in. But Chuck went on for a long time, man. He had a lot to say. He is an incredibly impressive speaker, a super motivating guy. I reached out to a recruit who works with LeCharles and asked him, what do you think of LeCharles? I'd never asked him before. This is what he had to say, which is pretty amazing coming from a young guy. Where the hell is that quote? There we go. Everything I've gained in this game from him he's been the biggest man in my football journey aside from my father. I could not say enough good things about that man. Extremely relatable with very high passion and drive. He will not stop until he knows it's ingrained in my head. He would be a great recruiter because I want to know as a recruiter what you have done and who you have developed, and he's done all of that. And speaking of treating Ohio kids like you're the underdog, another quote from an Ohio recruit. When I asked him, do you feel like there is a difference in the attention you get from recruiting staffs versus Ohio State? Quote, definitely not like the other programs, especially Michigan. It's a crazy difference. So that's not great. But that's exactly what LeCharles is talking about. Now, a lot of people would love to see LeCharles as the Ohio State offensive line coach. LeCharles said he's open to it. I got to tell you though, man, LeCharles strikes me as a boss and not an employee. That guy is obviously incredibly successful, incredibly strong-willed, incredibly sure about himself and his processes. And I just would have a difficult time seeing Ryan Day hire a guy with so much edge because he's edgy. It comes through the TV screen. Yes, you want that guy to work with your offensive line. That would probably be great at it. But there's other factors when you're the boss, when you are hiring people and a coaching staff of 10 assistant coaches. You know, number one, they got to work with other people in the staff. And number two, you've got to feel confident that you can go to your position coaches when things aren't right or are not being done the way you want them done, that you're going to be able to have a successful dialogue with them. And if you were sitting across from LeCharles Bentley interviewing him, I think you might think, if I got a problem, if this guy's ever doing something I don't want him to do, like, I don't really want to go argue with him because it seems like he might be pretty strong in his opinions about just about everything. I don't know. That was just my impression coming through the screen. And, he's an edgy guy, man. Like, he's a serious, intimidating dude. But interested to know what you guys would think, man. Do you think Ryan Day would hire LeCharles Bentley if there was a vacancy? Do you think he'd interview him? Be pretty interesting. But he said that he would be interested in the job. But he definitely seemed to, a lot of people think, call out the way things are currently being done with the offensive line at Ohio State. And, I know for one that he was irritated with some comments made about his own height, right? He said that in the interview. He talked about the Michigan coach came to St. Ignatius when he was in school, looked him up and down and said, too short. Now, this just so happens to be the same thing that someone at Ohio State said to St. Ignatius's Will Conroy. And that did not sit well with LeCharles. So I understand. As not a very tall guy myself, man, we get sensitive about that kind of stuff. It happens. The pre-game day. So for one, they're not going to be staying at the Blackwell Inn anymore, which is on campus. They used to stay there. Not going to be staying there anymore. They're going to be staying at a hotel downtown. They said that there is some more space pregame for them to do walkthroughs. And with other public events going on, taking place at the Blackwell, they just think this will be better for them. That's the first thing. The second thing is just utterly hilarious to me. So, going on their pregame walk, skull session to the stadium, they've always worn suits, right? They look great. Well, they're not going to be wearing those suits anymore. But they're going to lose the tie? No, they're not going to lose the tie. Take off the jacket. No, not that. They're going from suits to sweatpants. That's what they're doing. Ryan Day says this is a decision that the leadership council made because they all wanted to look uniform. They all wanted to look the same, which is pretty hysterical to me. Like, you went from suits not to let's just lose the jacket. Let's unbutton the top button. We're going from suits to sweatpants. And it's just, I found it particularly funny because this is an argument I have with my kids all the time. My oldest is 24. My youngest is 17, still in high school. And these kids all wear sweatpants to school, dude. All of them. It's crazy. Like, we used to look good. We went to school. We wanted to look good for the girls. They all wear sweatpants. I don't know what's wrong with this generation, man. Oh my gosh. That was the oldest thing I've ever said. They're leaving Ohio State to go commit elsewhere. They're wearing sweatpants to high school. What's wrong with kids these days? Far from the days of videos of Nick Saban yelling at his guys to tuck in their shirt tails. And matter of fact, I've heard Kirby yell at him about that too. Tuck in your shirt tails. Ryan Day, not just letting him go from some suits to sweatpants, but saying he's very excited about it. He's very excited about them looking uniform. So I don't know, guys. What are we thinking here? Let's get to the comments section. What's going on with all you guys? How pumped are we? Power Spread, my guy. How you been, buddy? Power Spread says if they can pull off close wins week after week, then they will be in a bowl, but could be a lot of tough losses. All right, I'm guessing he's not talking about the Buckeyes. Oh, he's talking about Colorado. Listen, my thoughts on Colorado last night are they looked like they were playing much more as a team than they looked like last year. You could see the offensive lineman they ran down to celebrate after the touchdowns. There was a different feel to that team for sure. Now, I'm a Colorado hater. I'll tell you straight up, but a different feel. Definitely. It felt more like a team to me. I thought the funniest thing was in the beginning of the game that who is it? Mark, the announcer, Mark. He said all the excitement you're looking at being brought by 42 transfers they brought in. Like that's some kind of good thing. The 42 transfers they brought in, literally half of a roster in transfers. Oh, look at Dan asking, is this episode recorded or live? It's live, man. I'm right here with you. Talk to me. All right. Now, this is my buddy here, and he's got his own podcast on offensive philosophy, scheme. He's pretty brilliant and usually loses me in his comments, which are several paragraphs long, talking about things I don't understand, but he's got a good opinion here. I think special teams is the only thing that could really hurt us. We have so much depth this year, even at quarterback, offensive line now. I think we may get away with some injuries, but we need special teams for the close games. And he's absolutely right. And special teams has been an area that Ryan Day has punted on most of his career. Not really put much into it, but he did just say the other day that he thinks we're going to get a kickoff return. He also said that he's overseeing the personnel. We got the guys, every coach has got a department, right? Every coach has got one of the units. And then there is an analyst who is overseeing it, but he's overseeing some of the personnel. So I feel like in his new role, he has also taken a little more on with the special teams, and that sounds great. Eric wants to remind us all that Saban is an NFL failure. That makes you feel better, buddy. He did not do great in the NFL. I would contend that if he stayed longer, he'd have turned it around. But you never know. Maybe his style wasn't. Biddle also says, Juck has to do these live, not tape and put as live. If he was live, then Juck needs to sometimes read his comments while live. All right, I'm reading them right now. Listen, I usually do the show at like between 12 and 1 in the morning. I don't know if anybody would join me. You know what I'm saying? I got the day to do whatever I want today. And I was going to go at 9. I don't know if he's joking or not, but it's funny. I hear this. I see this all the time. Everybody's tweeting this. Scoop had it first. I don't know if they're joking or I think that's one of their taglines, but it's pretty funny. Terry, my guy, what's up, buddy? Emily, what's going on? Emily says, when asked if he can guarantee Ohio State will end its kick and punt return touchdown, Ryan Day laughed and said, I'm going to guarantee one this year. I'm putting it out there. How about that? Now that's some serious stones. That is some serious stones. I'm happy that he said that. You never see him say anything like that. By the way, man, that press conference was hilarious. What's going to make for a successful game to you? Everybody grade out as champions. Like the answers sometimes are just hilarious. The just most basic of basic stuff. I wish he would share a little more, but you know what it is. Connor's game ball says Ferris got me blocked. Power Spread says Day's a big picture smart guy. I was concerned when no special teams coach named, but now he spoke to Tress, position coaches, and named a special teams coach, so feeling a lot better. My man Sean, what's up, buddy? Sean going to see Bodpin Miller soon, and he has got access to the sidelines. His sister works at a Mansfield school. Sean's going to be on the sidelines for Bodpin Miller's game, going to shoot us some sweet video that we're going to play on the show. I can't wait to see Sean's sideline view and what he gets from Bodpin Miller, because game one, the highlight reel from game one almost looked like 50% of a kid's season-long huddle tape. I mean, there was that many plays where it was just like, are you kidding me? There's more? Yeah, there was more. There was a lot more. He's ridiculous. Oh no, my buddy. Listen, this is one of the Duck Eyes here. Says dial back the Oregon trashing. I'm just having fun. You know how I do. Come on, we can have fun without getting nasty with each other. That's why I don't mind the Oregon folks. It doesn't get nasty. Scooch says Colorado barely played Hayden and he didn't look good. What'd you guys think of Dallin last night? Chase Young fan, Will Howard will be average, but that's all we need. You know, there's 134 schools. I think he'll be better than average. I think he'll be a top 20 quarterback. And top 20, you probably mean top 20 when you say average. But I think he'll be a top 20 quarterback at minimum. I think that's his floor. We got a lot of people saying that he's going to be in New York for the Heisman. I wouldn't go that far. At the same time, I wouldn't be stunned by it. Would you? I just can't wait to see tomorrow. I just want to see this offense. I want to see their fastball. They've talked for a while about we're working to try and find our fastball. What is their fastball going to look like? What are they going to do when they absolutely need it? They don't care if you know it's coming and they're going to get it. Like, I want to see that. Kyle B says, Zach and Chris have the Menace golf outing going today. Tiger, Shark, Divers, so they're all golfing. They are. Well, Chris isn't golfing. Chris is shaking hands and kissing babies. But, yeah, they are. They went ahead and went at 9 o'clock today, my time slot, kicked me off into 12, and that's okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Kevin says, of course Trey gets the first carry. He's a captain. Yeah, I would imagine so, right? Walter says, is Coach Fry just a lazy recruiter? Listen, you can call it lazy. Here's the deal. This is my opinion. I think that he just does not enjoy the process of talking to teenage kids a lot and doing all the crap you need to do to keep up with them to make them feel like they're special and important. Like, listen, I already told you I want you. I already told you I think you're great. I already told you what I think you need to work on. Can we just leave it at that for the next couple of months? That doesn't win you recruitments, though. Obviously, it's annoying and obnoxious. We would all hate it, right? It's not fun. It's a crappy part of the gig to have to kowtow to 17-year-olds to make sure they feel loved and wanted and needed. But it's part of the gig you signed up for. I think he dislikes that part of it. I've heard that he's not the type of guy who likes to, text all the time and call all the time and email all the time. That's just not his personality. Well, guess what? That's called a dogged recruiter, right? That's what that's called. It doesn't need to be your personality, but it needs to be part of how you conduct yourself on the recruiting trail. So whether he likes it or not, Dave Greenshield, Juck, let's go. I wonder if this is my old buddy, Dave Greenshield. I got a buddy, Dave Greenshield. If that is, what's up? What's up, Dave? Our guy Woody says a good exercise for next season is to study the linemen on the Joe Moore line and see which ones had OSU offers. Yeah, I mean, we could even go back and do that the last couple of years right now. Troy says, go Buckeyes, go. Absolutely, guys. Man, it's here. Rod says, so I was on Juck's channel this whole time. Yeah, guys, I'm broadcasting this on both channels. John Diadamo says, part 1 is over. Part 2 coming up in a few days. How you feeling about the Texas game, buddy? How you guys feeling about that Texas game? I'm very interested in that game. Ken Taco Hut, he agrees with me here. Look, kids look like they just woke up in school now. They absolutely do, man. It drives me nuts. Chris Carter, where's the Michigan helmet? Come on, man. You know I can't have that in here. You know I can't do that. Look, if I'm being totally honest, I think it's a great looking helmet, objectively speaking. It's a very good looking helmet. Um, you know, Michigan didn't originate the look, but it is a great looking helmet, objectively speaking. Dave says, Chuck, do we see CJ and Sonny on the field a lot this year? Oh, I think absolutely. Do you mean the three of them together, or the two of them with Cody off? I think the way we heard it from those guys that they're absolutely planning on making sure that these guys are on the field a lot together. Spelling Cody, moving Sonny over. They said that they're going to do it. I'm going to take them at their word. Here's my guy, Matt Hoffman. He's only 22. He doesn't own a pair of jeans. It's sweats or chinos. I'm with you on jeans. I'm not a huge jeans guy. We turn this into a total fashion show here. Kevin says, Travis Hunter is the best player in the nation. My gosh, man. I want to dislike the guy. You know what I mean? I want to dislike everything about Colorado. And again, my stance here is it's not anything to do with them. It's about all these fake football fans. They're not even college football fans who have come into the sport because of Dion, because of the excitement, because this has crossed over into the mainstream media and have just been so vocal and loud and trying to tell us, people who know college football, like what it is. Last year, they thought Colorado was going to make the playoffs. They're being just as annoying this year. I want them to go away. They don't go away until Dion fails and leaves. So, yeah, I'm a hater. I'll admit it. But again, got really not much to do with Dion and more to do with those people that I can't stand. Not the first time we've seen this. I felt the same way about USC back in the day when that crossed over into mainstream media and pop culture and brought in a bunch of fake ones then. The difference was back then, we didn't have all the communication with all those idiots. Now, I can't not see them on social media. You know what I mean? Ooh, Rod says, Under Armour golf pants are goated. My gosh, dude, I got a pair of those. They are fantastic. They really are. And I don't really dig Under Armour stuff. Rod disagrees that said Saban was not a failure in the NFL. He says Urban was a failure. I wonder what if Urban was 10 years earlier to the NFL, if there would have been a difference. We all know that by the time he made it to the NFL, his style just was not jiving with NFL players. I mean, quite honestly, his style wouldn't jive with college players at this point. Dave says Saban never got his quarterback. Culpepper cost him his job. Was the story goes that he was going to get Drew Brees, but he failed the physical with his shoulder or something? You know, what happens if he gets Drew Brees, right? Are things drastically different? Here we go. Saban wanted Brees, and they gave him Culpepper, so he bailed before getting fired. You know, they play the classic thing where he says he's not going to be the coach of Alabama like 5 days before taking the job. If he didn't say that, I don't think he ever would have gotten nearly as much hate. Like if he just kept his mouth shut. But the fact that he said that and they had that sound bite. Rod says he hated hearing that Urban took that Jacksonville job. I was pretty excited, man. You know, I know Urban's got his warts and all, but what I love about him is he's so like Ohio's just part of him and he represents Ohio like in everything. Like he cares about it. Like I feel like he always has Ohio's best interest in his mind. And that's what I love about him. And that's why I'll always love him. But yeah, he's definitely got warts. I mean, I'll call them all out. I'm straight up about things, but you know, always have a soft spot for him. He wasn't perfect as a coach either. He did a lot of things that irritated the hell out of us that we conveniently forget about years later when we look back at people. And that's okay. But, in the moment, there were several years there that a lot of people were getting really pissed off. What's up, Anthony? I say Carnell Tate takes back a kick return this year. Maybe even JJ takes back a punt. Interesting. I think Brandon Innis is probably the best suited guy for punt returns. I can't wait to see Brandon Innis, guys. Like, I want to see Innis get some run here. Brano 2 times says, not every coach can be elite at every level like the great Jim Harbaugh. You guys still riding Jim Harbaugh, man. The guy just, I don't get it. I just don't get it. He left you, raided your staff, skedaddled out of town, still worshiping him. Rod says, Harbaugh has a losing record in all big games, NFL and college. And Kevin reminds him that Urban did go undefeated against the so-called elite Jimmy Harbaugh. Now, this is an important question that Anthony asked. Anthony with a wrench. Anthony, make sure you're taking care of any nonsense in the chat. When is the next Buckeye Boys? Now, we need to know the answer. Buckeye Boys, of course, is the new podcast with our buddies. Where's Mello? Is he in here? Mello and Devin. And they're on the OHIO podcast. And I encourage you guys to check them out. There may be 3 episodes in now. They just did their first live. They did a great job. And they're over on the OHIO podcast. And check them out. They are true Buckeyes. They support all the other creators. They've started their own gig. And they're doing a great job. I'm really happy for them. Here's Devin now. Okay, he's predicting the first drive, I think. Terry asks a good question for everybody, not including the quarterback. Who will lead the team in all-purpose yards? So I've got, as far as the receivers go, Emeka in receptions, Carnell in yards, JJ in touchdowns. So by that logic, we got Carnell is involved in the return game. I don't think that, you got Quinn and Trey splitting carries. Plus, I think Peoples is going to get a lot of runs, so it probably won't be one of them. Man, could it be Carnell Tate? That would be pretty wild. I think I'm going to go with him. What the hell? We're going with Carnell. Caveman says about Chris, shaking babies and kissing hands and smelling hair. Not bad, buddy. Brano feels that Harbaugh is going to get his Super Bowl. Ken Taco Hut says Dallin isn't there yet. Boy, there was a big debate last night about his pass pro on Shadeur's touchdown pass to Joe Horn. Was it good pass pro or not? Linebackers coming 6 yards straight at him. Dallin comes up in time to get his feet set, doesn't get his feet set in time. And because of that, he catches the block. Guy drives him back into Shadeur. He kind of did his job. It's not going to grade out great, but he kind of did his job. Wasn't perfect. Feet were not on the ground, just barely hitting back on the ground when the guy came, and he had plenty of time. So it wasn't perfect. I told you I was live at the My guy says, Chuck, you put together a great summary of 2024 and how we got from January to September, but we weren't sure you were live. I told you I was live in the beginning. Look, I'm proving it to you now. I know, look, guys, I'm telling you, I get thrown off my game. Like the first 20 minutes of that, like I just feel like my diaphragm bouncing up. It's just totally different. It's just totally different. And believe it or not, I'm a very shy individual. You know what I mean? Super shy guy. Cursed Design says, Jeremiah Smith has over 135 tomorrow, which would be just amazing. But would anybody be surprised? I wouldn't. Brano's look, this is the thing, man. And he's in the Menace chat, I'm sure, not in mine. This is why I don't like having Michigan fans in the comments section, because we're over here trying to talk about Ohio State, and they come in and they start talking about Jim Harbaugh or something, and then everything turns into Ohio State, Michigan, in every chat I'm in. You know what I mean? It's not that I got anything against them, but like, I don't want every damn chat to be nothing but Ohio State, Michigan. Like everyone they come in, and the Buckeyes can't resist coming back at them. So inevitably, that's what the conversation goes to. Always the rivalry. Like, can we just talk about us today? You know what I'm talking about. Craig says, Buckeyes fam, keep up the awesome work. Y'all are killing it. Thanks, buddy. Dave asked, did I put out my 12-team picks? Yes, I did. I did a whole episode with it. I will. I don't know. Maybe I can link that to something or something. I did. If you go back, it's titled, Dave. It was awesome. I think it's perfect. I think it's exactly what's going to happen. Juck, you're a real fan, and what they're doing in Colorado, turning it into the Kardashians, is not football. Now, we've also got, what's up, Mika? We've also got one of our buddies, Andrew, is a Buckeye, and he lives in Boulder, Colorado. And he's got great things to say about the impact it's had on Boulder, Colorado, which I certainly respect that. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. Ken Taco Hut says, you cannot make an NFL player do bear crawls in 0-degree temperatures. They make more than the coach. They certainly do. Dave says, a friend of mine is a lifelong Dolphins fan, and he hates Saban. One of the Duck Eyes asked, who's Innis? Innis is wide receiver number 4, who is a 5-star who only had 1 catch last year because he came in late. He missed spring. His high school wouldn't let him graduate early. So he didn't get a ton of run last year, but he is absolutely a leader, strong dude, shifty, total stud. And the country's about to meet Brandon Innis real soon. Real soon. Dago says, anybody who walks around with hot dogs in his pocket can't be trusted. Ken says, I love talking with non-OSU fans, OSU fans who claim to know more about our beloved program than we do. That's kind of like talking to a Colorado fan about college football. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Imagine this, right? Imagine you are a Colorado fan, like a legit one. Joel Klatt, you remember rooting for him as the quarterback of the team. And now you've got all these bandwagon goofballs coming on, claiming your program. Do you know how irritated I would be by this? I could not take it. I absolutely could not take it. This is a great question. Power Spread asks, I'm curious how all you guys feel about the Jesus stuff going on with the offensive guys. I actually like it. These guys are so together, aligned as a team. This wins more games than anything. Now, there are without a doubt some people who don't like this because they don't like the religion aspect of it being involved in it. I'm more looking at it from this could be anything, any one thing. It could be health and fitness. You know what I mean? Like, but they're all so into health and fitness that they're just promoting it on everything. Or it could, and I'm not comparing religion to that. I'm just saying, like, this could be any one thing. When you get everybody so rallied around one particular thing that they bond on a different level, I think it means a lot. I have seen some people criticize it that they want to see the team being tough. You know what I mean? They don't want to see this soft kind of thing, but whatever one thing it is they chose this. This is what they went into. The fact that there are so many of them who are bonding on a different level, I think it can't be anything but incredibly positive, right? When you bond like that, man, things are different. Things get incredibly positive. Walter Brasfield says, I like Will Howard's measurables, but I want to see how accurate his long ball is. To me, that'll determine our success. It certainly has room for improvement. That's for sure, particularly outside the numbers. And I'm interested in seeing it too. But I do think there is, plenty of success to be had without that being particularly excellent, because you've got guys out there who can really make a play sometimes that otherwise would not be made. And he's certainly put in the work, maybe he's improved a bit, but his numbers last year, right? If you're talking passes of 20 yards down the field, more than 20 attempts, there were 94 quarterbacks who met that criteria last year. And he was like number 74. So it's not his strength. That's for sure. Has he improved? We'll see. Can't wait. We're going to see tomorrow. I can't believe this is here. All right, guys. Devin, Ohio 7715, our guy, Buckeye Boys podcast. They're going to be going live every Tuesday at 8:15 on the OHIO podcast. And those are two of our best buddies. And here is Andrew. This is our buddy from Colorado. He's a fan of the revival among Ohio State football players, spirituality and solidarity. Also shows courage and leadership. It absolutely does. And I think that whether you are, someone who is into spirituality or religion, you can acknowledge that. It does show a ton of solidarity. Like, that's for sure. Rod says it happens everywhere, unfortunately. When they go on their chats, then they go on their chats and talk about how Michigan lives rent-free in OSU fans' heads. It's the truth. I just find it annoying. Like, I there's a time and a place for that, but it's like every single day, every single chat, 2 or 3 of them come in and then it just turns into that. And it's so obnoxious. What are you talking about? What do you mean you don't think of Juck's live? At 107, Devin. Hello, Devin. Listen, guys, Andrew says when they come in the chat, just let them know we're more concerned with that team out west that they have been replaced with in the conference. I think that is hilarious. All gas, no brakes, Terry. Terry Zorns asks, Juck, am I a gambler? Are you a gambler on football? If so, What type of results? Terry, yes. Results, yes. Here's what I do every year, and I've done this since the days of horrible offshore books that no matter how hard you tried, you could not even get your money pulled out. So ultimately, I knew making that $1,000 deposit or whatever I was doing at the beginning of the year, I'll never see this money again, right? So with that in mind, I just have fun with it, and I do enjoy it because it does make a garbage game fun sometimes. But I don't ever withdraw money. Like it gets depleted sometime during the year, and then the next year I re-up it. Like that's what it is. There's never a time where I'm like, let me pull out my winnings. Like that doesn't happen because I got this thing, right? First off, I don't gamble with enough money that it would. I keep it so low. I don't mean so low, but I keep it at a level where like I don't care if I lose. It's like this is like my entertainment money. I understand that it's going to go. And going into it with that attitude makes it more fun for me. But no, I'm not a serious gambler, though I do love getting into it, getting into the lines, I love the whole process about it. I'm just not confident enough in it to actually put enough money to take it seriously. I never stick to my units. You know what I mean? Like I never stick to a process, and to actually be successful at it, you have to stick to a process at least, like at bare minimum to be successful over the long run. And that's just not fun. Then that becomes like work. You know what I mean? Like that takes away the fun part of it. So no, never withdraw money, always deposit, have fun at the beginning of the year. I find a code. Matter of fact, I was supposed to get, so I had a sponsorship earlier on with, what the hell was that? My bookie. And I'm waiting on this email from this girl, but I need this code to re-up. I want to get the money in there, but I need one of those sweet codes, to get a big deposit bonus. What's up, Eric? This is my buddy Eric from the OHIO podcast, another podcast brother. He'd rather see these guys reading their Bibles and praying with other students than out on High Street running from the cops and drag racing. Just saying. You can't argue with that. But there are people who would. There are people who say they like that edge. They like guys who, some of the team to get in trouble and things of that nature. Some people feel that way. I definitely saw some people in the comment section of the clips that it came out with the event that they had at the school the other day, where the guys were baptizing people, and they were posting GIFs or little videos of, tough, hardcore players giving fiery speeches before the game as if like these guys are soft. We want guys like this. And I think there is definitely a room for both, right? Like just because they're doing that doesn't mean they're not also doing that before the game. And Curse Designs agrees. Hawk City says, who could be against you if God is with you? If that's their attitude, like that's great. Like, oh yeah, capture that. Whatever it takes, man, capture it. Scooch says, never would I think being religious would be a bad thing, but being a thug is a good thing. Yeah, I was pretty surprised at the number of people who were clowning that. Dave says Howard really didn't go down the field in the spring game, and he didn't. And remember how windy it was that day. It was so windy. I think if he had gone downfield, it would have looked pretty lousy. And had it looked pretty lousy, it would have instilled a lot of panic. So I'm kind of glad that he didn't, to be honest. Faith Thomas says, good morning from Los Angeles. Hello, Faith. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us to talk some Buckeye football today. Walter, you're very welcome. Thanks for taking my question, comments. Listen, I am undefeated. There is not a podcaster in this game that can stack up to my response rate. It's the highest in the whole business. If you take the time to drop me a comment, odds are you're going to get a reply. That's just what it is, because I think it's rude not to. So, calling all you other podcasters out. Respond to the people who take the time to leave you a comment. You're welcome, buddy. Dago says the city of Boulder made 17 to 18 million the first home game last year in one weekend. Let that sink in. Is something wrong? Like, Troy, you just said this like 6 minutes ago. How are you guys still asking if I'm live? I'm literally talking to you. Oh, you guys are messing with me. Okay. All right. You got, all right. Sorry, guys. I totally missed the joke. I thought you were serious. You need a shirt saying Juck Eyes Live, says my man Terry. Don't got that, but I got a whole lot of Juck Eyes and Juck Eyes shirts at Columbus Apparel Co., the official sponsor of Juck on Bucks. Do check them out if you're in the market for a Juck on Bucks shirt or any other kind of screen printed gear you want to get done. These guys do everything. They're fantastic. They're Buckeyes, just like us, and they're great. ColumbusApparelCo.com. You can check them out. Let's go over a couple of excellent high school football games this week. Let me get Terry's comment off the screen. Not that I don't love Terry's comments, but it's in the way now. If I could just find how to do that. Yeah, sorry, guys. Bear with me here for just a second. I am horrific at this. Is that it? There we go. Okay. All right. High school games of the week. Toledo Whitmer is taking on Toledo Central Catholic, and that is our guys' team, Carter Lowe, Toledo Whitmer. Toledo Central Catholic supposedly has an excellent defense this year, which means Carter Lowe really going to get tested. Hamilton takes on Lakota West. Canton McKinley takes on Avon. Don Bosco coming into Akron to take on Hoban. Our boys lost last week to Maryland, to the two-time defending state champ from Maryland. So looking to bounce back, and you got Don Bosco on the schedule. Not an easy task. So we'll see if Eli Lee, Rock Hill, Sam Greer, and the boys can get it done. Sincere Johnson and Glenville take on Olentangy Liberty. And Saturday, and a game I really wanted to go to if it was Friday, but it's not, St. Joe's Prep, Isaiah West, Maxwell Roy, coming into Lakewood, Ohio to take on St. Ed's. That's going to be awesome. Absolutely can't wait for that one. But they're playing it on Saturday, man. Like, what are you doing? Nobody's going to watch. It sucks. Are you messing with me? He said he's live on 2 channels, so when has to be back? No, I've got the comments from both channels in here. Uh-oh. I've seen my internet just drop down to 1 ding. Kevin Fritz, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. Isn't it ironic Brohio is being made fun of by a bunch of accounts hidden behind fake pay-for-pay and named? Yeah, that is hysterical. He's absolutely right. Brohio is being made fun of by a bunch of fake accounts that don't have their real names. That is really funny. Scooch says, it's hard for me to gamble. I just love football too much. I like the not knowing anything can happen aspect of the game. If you bet on a game, it's different, and it really does change the feel. I don't ever bet on Ohio State games because I don't ever want any distraction in my rooting interest. Not that there ever would be. I bet on games that I don't have much interest in because then it makes me more interested. And I really like that. I find that to be a fun thing to say. Okay. Devin just texted me and said he was just messing with me and joking with people in the chat. All right. I just wanted to make sure like you guys were just messing with me because I really thought like there was some issue here. But I appreciate you looking out for me while I'm sitting here shouting out your show. Thanks, Dev. Dago says, Oregon are like kids when you're finally old enough to sit at the adult table. That's a good one. Faith says hello from Los Angeles, and she wants to let us know. She's from Los Angeles, but was born into it by virtue of his dad. Went to community college, helped out with the community college football team as a hydration specialist. That's fantastic. Thanks for checking in, Faith. Appreciate you watching from Los Angeles and joining us in the comments section. Juck, what's your ideal playoff run with matchups for OSU? It would be great with beating 3 consecutive SEC teams to a natty, taking down LSU or Texas, Bama, then Georgia. I'm with you. Look, that would be ideal for me. But what I really, really want, and I don't care when it happens, I want Georgia. I want Georgia because you look at everybody saying last year, if even like saying it almost as if it's fact. Well, if Georgia made the playoffs last year, they're the ones that would have won. I don't want to hear if Ohio State faced Georgia, they would have won. Like, I don't want that. I want them. I've been talking all sorts of crap to their fan base for the last 5 months. I want them. Like, you know what I mean? If we don't get them, I'm not going to be disappointed if we win a national championship. But if we don't get them, it'll feel slightly less fulfilling to me. Like, I want them. I really, really want them. Dev says, we'll see if those Oregon have any hunger or energy left for the game after carrying around those huge diamond duck necklaces. And this is kind of what Charles was hitting on, right? Like, he doesn't want this. And the thing about this is, like, you see so many of their guys, like, you look at the Ohio State, the culture that they've embraced, the culture out at Oregon is a little blingy. It's just a little bit blingy, guys. You know what I mean? Kind of. Oh my gosh. Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, the internet went out, man. I don't know what to do. It just came back on. I thought it was over. Listen, they don't offer fiber where I live, bro. I swear I would love to get it. It's no like, I mean, like, it's no cost issue. I'll pay for it. Yeah. Hey, we're back up. We're back up. I don't want to end it yet. I'm having a good time. That's right. Back from the dead. The heat. Is it? I hadn't considered that. Not bad. Not bad, Hawk City. Walter, thanks for coming back, buddy. Listen, all we did was knock out the posers, right? The posers, the fake ones, they left. The real ones are back. Power Spread says, I know a lot of you probably found this while on Menace to Sports like me, but I have to say I enjoy the chat people here better. It's more interesting and fun. It's definitely less contentious, right?